Kenny here with Gardening Simplified. Today it's November 10th and I'm in my workshop, and we're going to do a little talking about planting, so let's get after it. The question comes up on a regular basis on when should you plant? You know, is it time? Of course, depending on what type of plants you're putting in, the season might affect it. A lot of crops grow year round. They're just a little bit harder to care for depending on which region you live in. Now, today I'm going to be planting some parsley and some cilantro. And I'm going to be planting it in the cell trays. Now, people ask, what plants do I need to plant in a cell tray, and which ones do I need to, can I plant directly into the ground? And the answer to that, it's a pretty simple one. You can plant any plant directly into the ground. You don't have to plant it in a cell tray. The reason we do this in cell trays, there's a lot of different factors that play into it. One would be that maybe it's too cold out still, and you want to get an early jump on planting. Some it may be warm enough, but you just don't you don't have a bed prepared. And now it's getting to be a cooler season, and parsley likes it kind of cooler. I'm going to grow this in the greenhouse because it does like some warmth. It grows considerably better in the greenhouse than outside when it's really cool, but because it gets that daytime heat. But the reason why I'm planting it in the cell trays is because I don't really have a bed prepared that I want to dedicate right at this minute. But I need to get a start on this so that it'll have some size, especially when it starts getting colder. But and I'll have it earlier because of that. But anyway, and some people are real particular, some aren't, as far as whenever you start planting these. Now on parsley, it's not going to hurt to have a clump of seeds. It's not like a lot of your vegetables, say like broccoli or cabbage or some of those, you would want just an individual plant. But when you're doing parsley or cilantro like I'm going to be doing, you don't need to worry about if you have 3-4 seeds in there, because it's going to do well, you know, as long as it's got good fertile soil and some water, it's going to do well on its own. So don't be real concerned with how many seeds. Now, when I plant cabbage or something like that, I'll drop a couple of seeds in there in case one isn't viable. Sometimes I'll plant just a bunch in a container, and then I'll prick them out and redo them. But that's time consuming, so I've just been here lately, I've just been planting a couple of seeds in each cell, and then I'll come back and thin them. Hopefully I'll thin them before they get real big like you've seen in some of my other videos. It just depends on how time is. But on this particular one, there won't be any thinning at all. It'll just be a matter of putting a few seeds there. Now, whenever you plant in cell trays, now your seeds don't necessarily have to be the same depth as they would in the ground. You can do that, but a lot of times when I plant in a cell tray, I plant about half the depth. It works out fine. You're keeping it good and moisture, and it's more controlled conditions. And with this cell tray, and when they sit in my workshop, of course I have the doors open early this morning. It's still dark outside, and it's about 50 degrees, so I let it cool down in here some, but generally it stays about pretty close 75 to 78 degrees inside the workshop area. So that gets the seeds to germinating quick, and then I can just take and once they start, a few of them start popping up, I move them out to the greenhouse. So you know, it's just a matter of water them with the water hose, and normally the rest of them will come up. Some may be slow, depends on how old your seeds are. The older the seeds, the longer it's going to take for them to germinate, and you'll get a whole lot more uneven germination. You might have some pop up right off, and then sometimes it might take a couple of weeks before some of the others do. But anyway, this is one reason to plant in the cell trays is because, or I say multiple reasons, and for this particular one is because my bed's not ready and I want to go ahead and get a start on these plants. The most common one that most people reason they do it is because they want to get an early start. And when you're planning to do early start, it's easy to figure. You just find out when your last frost date is, and then you work so many weeks backwards depending on what it is. Generally, most of the time it's 6 to 8 weeks. Like if you're doing peppers, a lot of times we'll work back 10 weeks, so you know, a month and a half early from the time you plan to set them out, and that should get you good sturdy plants ready to go. And you need to consider this now, even though it's fall and some of you aren't planting things, but there are a lot of things you can grow in the fall. As long as you get them started and up. If you don't get too big a jump on them, then they tend to be in that stage to where they grow real slow through the winter. If you get a good enough jump on them, like now when the weather cools down, by the time they get into production, like broccoli, they'll go ahead and head, and then you'll have plenty of time to have side shoots all winter long. When you're way up north where it's really cold, you run into different conditions, and without a greenhouse and possibly some heat, or greenhouse with some extra frost protection over your plants to keep them to where you can go ahead and grow them. A lot of growers in the north use unheated high tunnels, hoop houses, greenhouses, whatever you want to call them, and they'll use a fleece over them. Now, last year I used a lot of fleece, and I very possibly might this year. Depends on what I've got in the ground and what the temperatures are going to be looking like. Definitely I'll use some in the greenhouse on certain items when it gets real cold, not because they won't survive it, but because it'll keep the temperature warm enough that they'll thrive instead of just slowly growing. Anyway, I'm going to get this tray planted. Now, with the magic of movies, it automatically changed to cilantro. Now, after you plant these seeds in your cell trays, make sure you water them. I still like my little hose, gravity fed hose. I did go to a little bit larger hose because the other one just took longer than I wanted. But this way I don't disturb the seeds. But anyway, we want to make sure that we take and we mark these. Now, I have some cilantro that I got from Johnny's Seeds, and I had some that I had saved the seed. And what I'm going to do is, and it looks like I got a few seeds that decided to come up, which isn't going to be a big matter, but the seeds I saved, I planted this half the tray, and the seeds from Johnny's I planted on this other side of the tray. And what I want to do is see how well these still germinate. These seeds were from June of last year. Now, the thing about cilantro, there's a few seeds, onion seeds, cilantro, some say pea seeds. I think if you keep your peas frozen, like field peas, if you keep them frozen, they stay viable a lot longer. But they say that the germination rate goes down really quick with cilantro. So I'm going to see how it affects and see how well the seeds I saved this year are, because I have quite a lot of them. But I'm going to see how well the older seeds still germinate. But you want to make sure that when you plant them, water them in good, and I'm going to put a little dome over the top that keeps the moisture in, and I won't have to water them again until after they germinate. But there are a few items. Now I say you can plant anything in a cell tray that, or in the ground that you can plant in a cell tray, but you can't plant everything that you plant in the ground in a cell tray. So some of your root vegetables, like carrots and parsnips, now you can't start them in a cell tray because they put out a taproot, as you know, like carrots and parsnips are so much similar, that you don't want to plant them there, because what's going to happen is that root's going to start down this and start coiling, and so you're not going to have a nice vegetable as an end result. Okay, the Save Seeds cilantro, I put the tag on that end so I'd remember which one. But anyway, I've got these set up here. Now whenever I put these on my shelf, I actually put a clip on these, because what I've got is I've got one of these trays like you would get when you buy your transplants at big box store or a feed store, something like that. At the end of the season, what they do is they have a lot of them that's plants that's dead and stuff, and they don't pick all these up and take them back. They throw them out, but they have those trays piled up, and a lot of times if you ask them, they'll give you some of them. So, but anyway, I have, what I'm getting at is I have one of those inside of my tray with no holes in it, so it won't leak in here, and it's a little bit bigger, so I put those clips on, make sure it's tight. I don't want any fungal gnats or something getting in there. Now these I've just taken up. Now these plants here, these are beets. These particular ones are red beets. You can see they're just starting to pop up. When they start to pop up like that, good chance that all the rest of them are in good shape, ready to go. So what I do is I transfer these out to the greenhouse. I'll let them come up the rest of the way on their own out there, because we don't have to worry about it being too cold for them to germinate. And underneath here I've got some golden beets. But anyway, I hope this helps you as far as so you understand more about planting your seeds and the reason why you might want to plant them in your cell trays. If you want to see more of my videos, well, of course, just hit that subscribe, hit the bell button so you'll be notified, and give it a big thumbs up if you like it. Happy gardening.